Richard is a journalist focused on international science policy. He co-founded ScienceBusiness, a Brussels-made media company, in 2004. Its open access news service on science policy this year has had more than 700,000 users around the world and 70 supporting institutions. And in Sweden,
recording in progress.
Karolinska Institutet, KTH, and Stockholm University, and newsflash, Vinnova, starting 1st of January. Previously, Richard worked for the Wall Street Journal as a science and technology reporter, and then as managing editor of its European edition. He is an alumnus of Harvard University and of MIT, and he joins us from Washington, D.C., where he is working on science business growth in North America. It's a privilege for us to have you with us today, Richard, and we look forward to hearing your insight on what's going on in terms of science and the role of science around the world. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anna. Very much appreciated, and I'm sorry I can't be with you there in person, but I would like to thank you and Forskarsstödet and also our own science business members from Sweden. So thank you all. So my talk is about the crisis in science. What's that about? After all, science seems to be doing pretty well. It gave us COVID vaccines in under a year. It warned us about climate change. Heck, it just knocked an asteroid off course. Talk about random. Still, from my perspective, a crisis it is. So an example. A few weeks ago here in Washington, I went to a small workshop at the National Academy of Sciences. About 20 people, the great and the good of US science. And what were they talking about? Science? Not much. Rather, they were talking about China and its competition with the US. They were talking about a growing web of security restrictions targeting academics. This is nuts. As one university president there put it, his faculty members don't wake up in the morning and ask themselves, how can I commit treason against the United States? You know, I'm sure you agree with me. The purpose of a university is finding and disseminating knowledge. It's not policing anybody. That workshop highlighted for me the problem. Around the world, the scientific enterprise was never so big, never so economically important, never so political, geopolitical as it is today. It is a victim of its own success. Now, let's briefly look at those three trends: scale, economics, politics. Scale. The global R&D enterprise, as you know, is now enormous. Last year, according to the OECD, more than 2 trillion with a T was spent on it worldwide, with the US, China, and EU the top three. From it have come miracles in health alone. There's cancer treatments, there's gene therapy, there's messenger RNA. The impact we don't yet know. But think, if we understood disease so well that we could stop curing it and simply prevent it, that would be amazing. Second trend, economics. With these astounding capabilities, science is now vital to every nation's economy. The internet, artificial intelligence, solar and wind energy, electric cars, it's all science. A handful of tech visionaries are now billionaires, or as I think of them, robber barons. Messenger RNA has turned a few startups into industrial powerhouses. The fortunes of entire nations have been transformed by science and technology. And think of China. So, and the third trend, politics, or rather geopolitics. Because of its scale and economic importance, science is very visible. Never before have so many politicians cared so much about something they knew so little about. Just think of back to Donald Trump speaking out loud in the White House press room about the possibility of using bleach to cure COVID. Talk about American exceptionalism. But more routinely, look at the politics of Horizon Europe. It's Eastern Europe versus Western Europe. It's regional versus national. It's basic versus applied. Of course, it's politics. It's 95 billion euros on the table. As a journalist, I love watching it. I've watched it since the start of the European framework programs in 1984. I'm afraid that dates me a bit, but it's better than the World Cup. Maybe not as much fun for the players, but still good. But everywhere we have politics in action. As the Brits, the Swiss, and the EU keep squabbling, what's the biggest stick that Brussels holds over them? It's Horizon Europe membership. In the UK, the new chancellor this month was struggling to find tax cuts. What did he pick on? R&D tax credits. And they're just Friday morning in the Times of London. What's the headline? Foreign students face ban from universities. This is, again, nuts, as I said. All this leads to a crisis, a hurricane heading towards the global science system. Increasingly, science is viewed as a tool or a weapon in somebody else's agenda. Take the Ukraine war. Within 10 days of the invasion, most West European governments had suspended official research collaboration with Russian institutions. We asked our European readers about it, and more than 70% said they agreed. I do too, but what a shock to the science system. It isn't just Russia, there's China, the second biggest science power. For a while, as you no doubt read, the US was prosecuting Chinese American researchers. Now, fortunately, that stopped, but other security measures continue. Meanwhile, the German and the British governments are telling universities stay away from Confucius institutes. The G7 is working on research security in a special committee. Nor is this just a Western game. In China, partly due to COVID restrictions, but also by deliberate policy, it's harder today than ever before for a foreign researcher to work there. Both sides, East and West, are putting bricks into a new Great Wall of China. So you see the problem. As the science enterprise gets bigger, more productive, it also gets more political. The success of science was built on openness, collaboration, sharing knowledge. Now researchers are told, be careful, watch your back, stick to friends. This is dangerous and has been recognized as such for a while. In 2019, Jean-Pierre Bourguignon, the former president of the European Research Council, put it this way. Let us not think, he said, that scientific cooperation can simply be turned up or down exactly as we wish, like a volume control. Once people no longer feel welcomed, once every individual visit or project starts to be questioned, once our default position is suspicion and not trust, then relationships that have been built up over years can break down very quickly. So, what to do? How to stop this now? What do we have to do to get attention? Do we have to copy the climate protesters, glue our hands to a DNA sequencer? I don't know. I have two ideas I wanted to discuss with you. First, I think we have to build a wall between frontier research and applied research. Applied research is about doing things. It should be political. It should be commercial. But frontier research is different. It's about knowing. It should be kept out of politics. In the US right now, that's exactly what is not happening. Congress just ordered the National Science Foundation to set up a technology directorate. That's far from the NSF's institutional knowledge or mission. And when the pandemic began, that's exactly what in Brussels the ERC did right, I think. It refused to start funding targeted COVID research. That other agencies could and did do better. So again, let's keep frontier research separate. Try to keep it away from politics, away from security, away from trade or IP conflicts, and keep at least a small portion of the scientific world working together. So that leads to my second idea or wish. Create a global funder for global frontier research. The greatest risk to science lies in these new geopolitical walls. Can you imagine a world with 3, 4, 6 science blocks separated by language, separated by culture, by funding, separated by law? That's going backwards 300 years. How did we get COVID vaccines in under a year? How did we learn about climate change? Through international collaborations. To keep that going, we need an international funder of frontier research, disengaged from politics, open to all nationalities, funded by research-intensive nations, and issuing collaborative grants based solely on merit, judged by international review panels. In short, it's kind of an ERC for the world, working alongside national funders, but separate from them and separate from their local politics. Now, I know this idea is not new. Many organizations have been talking about it. I've been reading about it and hearing about it as you have. Some, the Gates Foundation, the Wellcome Trust, CEPI, have been trying to do something about it in their own ways. But how do we get it done officially, globally? Well, to start with, at least we don't have to invent anything. We just copy paste the ERC's procedures, its peer reviews, its IP and ethical provisions. Done. But to go international, we need international support. And that starts, it has to start with the top 3 science powers, the US, China, and the EU. To persuade their governments, we need a coalition of support from the business world. Always the business world, the most powerful voice at any policy table. We also need support from civil society in climate and health. We need media engagement. We need a crisis to make it urgent, and God knows we have enough crises at the moment. So to get this happening, it'll take many skills: communications, lobbying, research, organization, fundraising. I'd like to open a conversation about this with you. Well, of course, we'll write about it in Science Business, but other media as well. Twitter, well, maybe Mastodon. Think for a moment. After World War II, European leaders wisely seized upon science as a diplomatic tool to help repair a broken world. That was Euratom, that was CERN, and I think we need that spirit now. So thank you very much, and Anna, I hand over to you.